Welcome to the Reimagine podcast. Each week, give yourself 30 minutes and meet the people working hard to create the future of insurance today.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of the Reimagine podcast. Laura, how are you?
I'm doing well. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, we are. We had some really interesting news about our new Talent Bridge 23, and I think we'll be telling that story more in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a great series of interviews with the companies, the students, the universities, and the mentors involved. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And today's show, though, is going to be related, but also linked to some of the other topics we have, which is what does innovation mean, and how do you actually help people change the way they're approaching the market, doing business? Do you want to do the intros, Laura?
Happy to do so. Today we have joining us Bobbie Collies. She's an insurance junkie that comes from an extensive background in commercial underwriting and P&C insurance carrier leadership. She is freshly the Chief Growth Officer at Coterie Insurance and is a passionate servant leader. So we're going to dive more into that. But Bobbie, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And can you tell us about what does your company do? What problem do you solve?
Yeah. So we are actually trying to change the paradigm in how small business is delivered to the market through speed, simplicity, and service. Really, like the underwriter in me, I'm in growth now, so I'm driving sales, but the underwriter in me and the insurance geek in me is really excited about the automated underwriting engine that's powering everything behind what we do. So really using third-party public data sources to gather underwriting information and run that through a set of rules to get an instant bindable quote. It's changing the way agents look at small business, because in the past, typically they wouldn't want to spend much time on it because by the time they bound the business, they lost money. Now, because it's so quick and easy, we're making the economics work for them, which is super exciting.
And who wouldn't want quicker, faster, better, right? This is an easy
society
sell.
We live in, right? Instant gratification. If I think of something I need to buy, I don't make a list anymore. I just pull up my phone and buy it, and it's at my house within a day or two.
Yeah. Well, we see the same problem in the insurance space. Is there are certain products where if you haven't specialized in a particular niche, it takes too long to learn it. You don't necessarily know the products. And as you say, it took so long, could sell this and make more money per sale. Oh, but if you got better at this or you automated this, you could do a lot more of it. Just talk to us about what the binding process was before. And I'm not sure, first of all, when was before? And, Flora and I are trying to expand our business lines. How much quicker is it today to get an answer to somebody who wants a quote?
Well, when I first started in the industry, it would take weeks. A CSR or a producer would have to fill out an Accord application. Sometimes those would come in even handwritten, you guys, fax, snail mail. Those would get processed by an underwriter who would then quote it, drop a quote proposal, send it back to the agent. The agent would have to talk to the insured, maybe bind a quote, collect payment. So typically at least a few days, but on average weeks. And if the CSR or producer is going to multiple carriers for this, then it times that by 3 or 4 or 5. So on average, I think there were some studies done. It took at least 8 hours of a producer or CSR's time to bind a piece of small business. We can do it if there's enough third-party data available in seconds. Literally, it's a 2-item input, name, address, verify the NAICS code, and get an instant bindable quote. Now, if it's a brand new in business, small business, we'll need more inputs because there's not enough data out there for us to collect. But it's crazy. It's absolutely changing the way we do business. And in fact, some of the largest brokers across the country won't even pay their producers at under $10,000 or $25,000 in revenue. So that's $75,000, $100,000 account. If you combine something in seconds, you're making money off of it. It's completely
so. Yeah. So what's a typical, again, I'm coming from more from the life and annuity side, but what's a typical, commission or revenue that's, we're talking about for one of these small businesses
Typically, it's
on an
about
annual basis?
15%. On average, it's about 15%, depending on the market. I mean, there's some carriers that will run year-end specials, right, because they want to meet their goals. But so it's 15% commission. So if you think about it, if our average account size is somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 right now, we've seen that go up a bit because we're getting a little bit more complex with our underwriting engine on the back end over time. But it's not a whole lot of money, right, that they're making off of any individual account. So we've put them in a position to be able to do so, which is exciting.
Right. But there are a lot more small businesses than there are larger.
Yes. And there are a lot of uninsured small businesses. I think 2 reasons. One, folks don't know that their personal lines coverage doesn't cover the small business that they have, especially if it's home-based. And 2, agents aren't chasing it because they can't make money off of it. And we're even in a position where we can do large batches of pre-rating lead lists, right? Because we have, all we need is a name and address to return a quote.
Has the transition from fax to doing this work in seconds, has it been an easy transition, we'll say, for the agents involved? Because in our business, as we're going digital first, we experience a multitude of things. How has it been on your side?
I think it's been both difficult from a change management position for both agents and in veteran insurance people, especially those with traditional underwriting backgrounds, because they feel like we're not properly underwriting a risk, when in reality we are. We've just figured out a way to get the right data and automate it. Agent behavior is very difficult to change too. And that's something I've experienced even prior to Coterie. When digital transformation started within P&C, there's a lot of amazing tools out there for agents to start to digitize their business, right? And get leads online, leverage digital to support their strategy. And what we were finding is a lot of agents were buying these tools and then not even close to maybe 10% optimization. Like they did not figure out how to operationalize these tools within their agencies. So there they sit, and then they think it's a waste of money. And then they go back to doing everything the way that they used to do things, right? The nice thing about our product is it's so quick and easy. It really doesn't take a lot of change management within the agency itself. It's more about thinking differently. Our issue becomes more about agents trusting the underwriting behind it, because it is so fast. It's like, there's no way you underwrote it in 2 seconds. Well, we did. But it feels uncomfortable because it's not what they're used to.
Well, maybe talk a little bit about the changes. So Laura and I we have an insurance agency, got it from Laura's dad. It seems to be, typical, backstory, or grandpa or something. Family, our family lives and breathes this stuff. I grew up, stuffing envelopes.
Yes.
What do I really change? So I signed up for the program. How do we have to change our business? Laura threw the fax machines out.
That's fantastic.
What else?
Well, I mean, if you think about the simplicity of the product that we have, the ability to leverage that tool and scale it very quickly for an agency who does have digital tools at their hands and it is using leads acquisition tools is super high. Like even embedding our solution into your website, so your policyholders can have 24/7 access to quoting. You don't have to be there as an agent unless they have questions, and you can decide if you want to be available 24/7 or call them back the next morning. But thinking through, as an agent in the past, you would have this city that you're doing business in, and typically you would, network within the town, and you'd have this geographic limitation to how much you can sell. The agents that are leveraging the best digital tools today are selling nationwide. And to your point earlier, Paul, I think this was before the podcast started that we were chatting about this, but if you're specializing in a niche and you can understand how to set up the digital tools to acquire those customers and those policyholders. Tools like Coterie can help power your agency to grow at a bigger scale than it ever would have 5 years ago.
Have you seen the types of businesses change? So during the pandemic, we hear a lot of stats about side hustles and one-off situations. Did you see growth on your side as people expanded what they defined as work?
Yeah, Laura, I think some of it was we kind of scaled. We started to scale as the pandemic was going on. So it was, I don't know that our business grew because of that, but certainly the number of small businesses across the nation grew very significantly during that time. And they're continuing to grow just because of economic conditions. People are just trying to figure out how are they going to support their family? How are they're going to support themselves? And they're spinning up these new small businesses. And I don't know, just the mere fact that people just don't want to go back to an office too, right? They're just, I can make a buck on my own. We have seen now, because we do insure so many new in business, our retention rate is a little bit lower than what I would say industry standard, because we see people come in, they try something for 6 months, it doesn't work out, they cancel their policy, right? The failure rate in that first year is a lot higher. However, those that we, insured a year ago, they're growing, right? So kind of the model of like start with them when they're young and then kind of grow with them as their business grows. So that's been exciting to see and watch.
So product sounds great for an agency that's got an SEO optimized website with CRM and, fairly sophisticated inbound marketing platform. If somebody doesn't have that, what kind of services do you offer? How do you help us make that transition to say, it's great you want to do it, Paul, we've got the product, but
yeah,
here's the roadmap.
Yeah, well, I mean, an agency that doesn't have a ton of digital tools within their organization, their operating model, I mean, really, we're just another dashboard they can log into. The experience is just a lot faster. So you log into Coterie, you put in a name and address, you get a bindable quote, you collect premium, you instantly get a certificate of insurance and policy docs, and you're on your way. And we do have a customer success team on the back end too, that if for some reason your policyholder can't get a hold of you and they call us, or they call us first, we're trying to help our agents answer some of those servicing questions as well, and support basically the policyholder through whatever avenue that they want. We have chat, we have our call center, and we have licensed professionals that understand insurance, helping to support our agency plan. And you don't need an Accord app, which is exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. So it's interesting. Talk to us a little bit. I was clicking around on the website and I'm looking through producer resources just because, it's a fun place to be. Your digital appetite guide. Not only do I like how you named it, but talk to us a little bit about some of the resources on your website. So
our digital appetite guide is pretty fantastic. It's actually powered by an InsurTech partner of ours called Ask Kodiak. Those guys, I mean, I met them when I was in my underwriting days, because seeing the vision of having a single source of truth for your appetite and then being able to connect that through API wherever you need to, versus maintaining 75 different appetite guides in 75 different places. That's all powered by what they have built. And it's by the most granular NAICS code you could possibly get to. I don't know. What are we up to? Are we up to 8 digits now? I know we have 6. Maybe there's 8 now. And those fuel our underwriting engine, which we call Sleuth, on the back end, and they're married to our underwriting roles. So this is, Laura, like one of the pieces of changing behavior. Agents ask us what we write. Well, we have a pretty broad appetite, very, very similar to, I would say, a generalist that's writing small commercial. But they want hit lists. They want to know like what our appetite is. Like, it's just there. Like, what do you have? Just quick search it and you'll know. It's like Google search bar. It's it's very interactive and amazing, but it's, again, changing their behavior. You could honestly get instant qualification with just a name and an address in our quoting tool too. So instead of just knowing our appetite, you don't need to know what Coterie will write. You just take a half a second and type it in and see if it fits.
Yeah, I get, and I guess in terms of risk appetite, appetite for distributors of the future, who are they? So, if you kind of looked and said, Paul and Laura, here are the agencies that we want to connect with, look with, what do they look like from a scale? I'd be more interested to hear about capabilities and, as you say, sort of state of mind.
Yeah. So I would describe our distribution strategy as moving up the chain of sophistication with commercial lines partners as we scale and grow. So if you think about some of the largest brokers in the country, like they want to make sure that Coterie is proven, that we're financially stable, that we have a book of business that's stable, that we're not going to be erratic, right, in our underwriting and in how we behave in the market. So a lot of our early success has been more with personalized agencies that have a hard time getting commercial lines contracts with large carriers. But they have a significant amount of small commercial business that they need to place. So that was very early on. We've been working a lot more with networks and wholesalers as of late, and kind of moving up that chain, if you will, in commercial lines partner sophistication as we gain credibility and trust within the market.
Looking ahead, and I was reading a bit before our conversation today, and I noticed that you had mentioned in a previous article some research work early on in your career, and you had mentioned diving into insurtechs and learning a lot about what was going on in the industry at that point and how it was an advantage for you because you got to learn to see where the future could potentially lead based on this technology. And in a similar vein to Paul's question of looking ahead, what have you heard, seen? What are you engaging with in terms of insurtech that you think is going to be a major player or something that's going to have an impact on industry in the near term future?
Yeah, I think, Laura, there's been a lot of talk about embedded insurance lately, embedding the insurance buying process in different customer experiences and customer journeys, right? We see a little bit of that. Like if you go on Amazon and you buy something, Allstate's in your face. Like, do you want coverage for this? I think that there's still something there. But however, right now, based on the economic conditions, most companies are focusing on core. So they're not as willing to kind of test and learn that innovation stuff in our current economy. But I do think that over time, there will be places where folks are going to want to buy insurance on the spot versus having separate policies. Because, I mean, if you think about it, you buy a car, if you can just weave in your car insurance to that purchase, it's done and over with. You don't have to think about it versus having a completely another transaction with a different person. That said, there's so much regulation and there's so much complexity when it comes to larger risks, especially within the commercial line space. It's going to be very difficult for there not to be trusted advisors that are sitting around the commercial lines insurance product, right? And like even customer behavior, studies are showing that they'll start their journey online and do their research online, but they're not comfortable enough pulling the trigger and buying the insurance because they don't know if they have the right coverage or if it's the right company. So I think that there's going to be a lot more digitization of the services, a lot more self-service from a policyholder standpoint on the transactions they're comfortable with, address changes, right? Certificates of insurance, they know what they need, credit card updates, those types of things. That will be the next 3 to 5 years, right? Of just giving folks their own tools in their own hands. It's similar to like I don't know, your airline app. You can basically do anything from there now. You don't have to talk to anybody 95% of the time. I think that for most small commercial risks, that will be the truth in the near future. And then man, the AI around chatbots is taken off. Have you guys seen that this week?
No.
That's going to completely change how we market and do business.
Oh, what was I missed this. Was there a product announcement or that came out?
Yeah, it's, let me quick pull up my browser because I want to make sure I get this right.
Yeah, we've experimented with them, but it's the questions get so specific so quickly with conversations with people that most of the technology just hasn't worked. And as you know, it's especially when you're talking to customers, 95% right is not generally good enough for regulators or litigators.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think if it's a generalized question, especially when it comes to business acquisition, it's called Chat GPT. It's basically AI wrapped around a bot that's learned over time how to answer questions. And in fact, our friends at Ask Kodiak were messing around with it, asking about NAICS codes and how do insurance companies classify risks. And the chatbot was pretty accurate.
Really?
So, yeah. So the joke is we'll just have, the chatbot fill our Twitter feed. We don't have to do anything anymore. But from a marketing standpoint, just having, certain types of questions, Paul, to your point, nothing that's regulated, but
right.
Certain types of questions be answered, or even embedding, Coterie as a solution within the chatbot's memory or artificial intelligence. It's going to change, I think, in a lot of ways, the way digital marketers do business. And we're just scratching the surface right now. It's crazy stuff.
Listen, there's a lot of opportunity there. I'm a big proponent. It's interesting opportunity, but talking about interesting opportunities or problems. So you've been at this a while, and this will echo Laura's question a bit, which is, what are the big problems out there still to solve, or still to come up with better solutions from your vantage point? If I'm a startup, or I want to be a startup, and I've got energy to plow into there, where's gold still in the hills?
Yeah, well, I am of the opinion that 80% of all our industry problems have been solved by some startup insurtech. It's just a matter of, have they been able to sell themselves well enough within the market? Is their problem a big enough problem for people to actually want to spend time and money to solve? But I think the next wave of our industry is going to be, you have all these disparate technologies that are solving these problems that are very micro, right? And how do you bring those all together into an ecosystem that is going to work for both carriers and agents alike? On the carrier side, we're still trying to solve for this core system thing, which I don't even want to get into that, but that's just been a nightmare with every single carrier I've been with that have been doing system transformations. But it's more about how do we stack all these technologies together in a way that they're going to talk to each other and work with each other. And you're seeing some folks do that or try to do that, right? Ivans is trying to build IDP, trying to bring all these technologies together so it's an easy plug-in for an agent or carrier to work with all of these different technologies. But it's very early stage. And I think in theory, it sounds like it's going to work, but still to be proven out, right?
Yeah, I just wonder, I get your thoughts here, is I wonder if some of these problems should be approached almost as open source, code problems, like, COIs. How long have we heard people trying to figure out, is Laura insured or not today at 10:33 a.m.? Fundamental problem, but nobody's ever been able to get this. And I don't know, Bobbie, is it the ecosystem problem? Like, they haven't figured out quite how to plug in and satisfy all of these interests? Or is it that somebody's trying to say, listen, I'm going to put a service mark or a trademark or get intellectual property, I'm going to own the solution, and you come and pay me for it.
I think that there's both real hurdles that exist and hurdles that we're creating for ourselves that exist, right? So there's just some technology hurdles with some legacy technology, especially with your well-established legacy carriers, if you will, where they just don't have the pipes, or they can't figure out how to build the pipes to build the connections for the API. Because really what they have is this big bowl of spaghetti, and they're trying to unweave it. And it's very frustrating. But I also think that there is some of that, Paul, like, this is my solution. I'm not going to let anybody touch it. Like, I'm going to be the one that wins here, versus trying to problem solve together. Now, what I will say is some of the most successful and best insurtechs that I have seen in the market in the last 5-10 years have been those who have been very open to collaborating with other insurtechs that are like adjacent to the work that they're doing. And I think if we can have more of that collaboration and get more carriers involved in that too, like, let's all work together to find the best solution for the industry, we'll be able to move faster. But there's some ego and selfishness. Let's be real.
All I can see is just picturing, it's like kind of problem pooling. In the same way, I used to work for a nonprofit, and we used to have to pair together with other nonprofits in order to get a healthcare plan that was mildly affordable for all the employees. So wouldn't it be fun just to create a pool of problems or opportunities, however you want to refer to that? And it sounds like if there's enough together, they'll be significant enough for someone to want to solve them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's something there. I think that could be kind of fun to Paul's open source comments, like to take the ego out, as you said, Bobbie, and to have intelligent people sit in a circle around this pool of situation and then work to solve it. That would be one hell of a business, or businesses, I think, could come out of that.
We did, with one carrier I worked with, we did some innovation sessions with agents where we basically set up a Mythbusters event, and we were busting 5 myths and had agents ideate and basically come up with some technology solutions to solve for them. That was super fun. And like, they were way out there, but knowing where agents' minds are, it was kind of like fun focus groups, was very interesting. I know Chris Klein at ACT for Big I is the agency's counsel for technology. He's really trying to organize just what you're saying, Laura, right? Like, bring together carriers and insurtechs and agents and sit around a table and solve for problems in different committees. It's just, how do we scale that? There's 40,000 producing agents in the country. How do we take what we learn there, problem solve for it, and then scale it? And to our earlier conversation, get agents to change their behavior to adopt whatever the change is.
Yeah, and I in the life annuity space, Bobbie, it's our applications it's probably one of the biggest problems. The fields are complicated, the rules are complicated, but there's so many different systems competing for how do I create a field on a browser.
Right.
and send it to somebody. It's amazing. So I think we are trying to solve the same problem multiple times in ways that don't necessarily help, but maybe make things more complicated. I don't know, Laura. We're kind of at the top of the time. What are your thoughts? Last questions.
Yeah, I'm going to save my favorite question to this moment. But Bobbie, I see that you do a lot of servant leadership in addition to the work that you do with the insurance space. Talk to us a little bit about your why. Like, why is it you wake up and you do this every day? You could do anything in the world. Your shirt right now says drink wine and sell insurance. So you could be drinking wine, but you're on with us. So I guess my question is twofold. Number one, please tell us about your shirt. I'm very curious. And number two, what is your why?
So I'll start with the shirt. We had this just, we're startup, right? So we're not traditional stuffing. I've worn heels, guys. twice in the last year, and they were at industry events and I felt like it was fun to dress up, but like we are a fun startup. And I honestly think David was having a conversation. Our CEO was having a conversation with someone, and they just said, well, we should just drink beer and sell insurance, and then everything will be good. And then somebody said, you should make a t-shirt that says that. So we have a drink beer, sell insurance. We have a drink wine, sell insurance. We have drink margaritas and sell insurance t-shirts. And let's be honest, there's just a lot of drinking that happens within the insurance industry amongst agents and carrier folks, because that's how we build relationships and we get things done, right? So they're fun shirts that kind of represent, we both work hard and play hard, if you will. And the why, Laura, your question on the why, there's a few things that go into that. One, when I started in this industry, I very quickly recognized that there was a lot of potential for change and so many ways to make it better for all of the folks who participate in insurance. And it became a passion project of mine. And then the servant leadership piece, it's fun to celebrate your own success, but it's even more fun to celebrate the success of others, especially those that you've invested in, whether that's mentorship, thought leadership, brainstorming sessions. Like some of my proudest moments over the last couple of years were a couple of my InsurTech friends had some big exits, and I was able to help them in some way, shape, or form get to that point. And that's, I don't know, it brings me joy when I see others succeed. And that's my why. Yeah.
I think we should all find joy in helping others succeed. And I think the insurance industry is actually pretty good at doing that. I think in general, it's a good community. And listen, Bobbie, thanks so much. Congratulations on all the great work you're doing.
Thank you. I had so much fun just talking with you guys today.
Yeah.
Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, well, thanks. And, for our listeners, listen, give us feedback and definitely stay tuned. We've got some really interesting stories coming up ahead.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend us on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information about this company and other great startups at imagine.nfg.com.